We're going to start today's session with a conversation with Sandeep Sardana. I just want you to be aware of something we have introduced recently, and that is My Digital Mind AI Mentor. You can upload your slide deck to this AI mentor, just like you're uploading your slide deck here and I'm talking to you. 20 years of my mentoring sessions, writings, case studies, everything has been used to train up my digital mind AI mentor. And it's now available for you to upload your slide deck and start conversing on your own schedule as much as you want. Here, there's constraints. That one you can, have a lot of conversations. Maureen will give you the link in the public chat. And we can talk about this more if you have questions. But for the moment, I am going to switch to my conversation with Sandeep Sardana, founder and general partner at BluePointe Ventures. Sandeep has been here before. We know him. He knows the program. Sandeep, welcome back. And I'm looking forward to catching up with you, Menlo Park neighbor.
Thank you, Ramana. Thank you so much for having me again. And thanks to 1Mby1M team. I'm really impressed by what you guys are doing. Great service to the entrepreneurship world, particularly reaching overseas the way you do. It's a global program from what I understand. And I think the conversations you're having with the entrepreneurs as you're coaching them, as you're mentoring them, only fosters the entrepreneurship I think sphere as we need it, because as investors, right, we need more companies, not less, and more educated they are when they come through a program like yours, the better it is for us.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and there is this myth in the industry that entrepreneurship equals financing. So there's entrepreneurs, when they think they're going to start a company, they immediately start thinking about, okay, now I need to raise money, which couldn't be farther from the truth, right? They need to do validation work. They need to get to some viability before they should approach investors. But this misconception is pervasive, it's ubiquitous, and it's far-reaching. So we are continuously dealing with this myth and helping people, coaching people to unlearn this fallacy in the industry. And it is, unfortunately, in 20 years of doing this, I have not been able to get this to sink in fully. So we have to do it one by one. And I'm very happy with this AI mentor right now, because I can get this AI mentor to do some of this work without my having to do all of that heavy lifting in person. So Sandeep, what is going on with your fund? How are you parsing the world around us, the immense pace of change that we are experiencing in the industry right now, the technologies that are coming about, that is upending venture as an industry, upending the expectations of what needs to be there in companies, because ultralight startups are taking off like crazy. So there's like all kinds of things going on. I'd like to parse that with you. I'd like to hear how you're parsing, all this, and how you are, forging forward with your own investment thesis.
I think that's a great question, Samana. I think there's obviously major disruptions in the entire market. Our thesis has always been building on industry operating systems, industry OS. We started with vertical SaaS as our core component. We invested in a lot of vertical SaaS companies when that was sort of the right move, if you will, because it was core to what we knew, how we could help startups. I think the world is changing, but the problems of the world are maybe same or even more compounded because of these disruptions, right? It's not just a disruption to our industry, it's a disruption to every industry.
Yes, that's right.
And because it's a disruption to every industry, I think somebody needs to get out there and get in front of it. And in our world, our job is to get out in front of it as well and while there are lots and lots of ultralight startups, there's also lots and lots of startups that are in between and on the other side of the ultralight startups, which are very heavy, for example, right? You can take the ones that are hyperscaler funded types, right? So it's, we see this barbell effect happening again, right? Lots on one end, lots on the other end, and the middle thinning out. So finding this order in chaos is our job, and same thing was happening in when vertical AI was about taking off, and we made sense of it, helped out founders with our networks. You always need a design partner. You may not necessarily need capital all the time, but you need design partners. You need customers. You need to make sense of a GTM motion that gives you defensibility and acceleration and scale. So we keep our focus on that and continue to look for people who have deep domain expertise and can solve problems.
So Sandeep, is vertical AI your primary investment thesis?
It is. It's vertical AI. It's a nice sort of transition from vertical SaaS. I think the business models are fundamentally up for grabs again. In SaaS, you had a recurring revenue model. In vertical AI, there are lots and lots of it is changing to outcome-based. There are a lot of services being layered in between, which doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be recurring, but can be. So business model changes are also happening simultaneously. The time to value is where we see a big change. The ROI that a customer expects and how quickly they want to see the ROI is changing as far as we can tell. Customers their expectations are things will prove to be beneficial sooner, much sooner. It won't be months, could be days, could be hours. You can literally deploy it and start using things that are working immediately for you and making sense of your processes, your workflows, your data.
Interesting. So there's a whole range of things that you've said in there, and let me kind of extract each of them and
sure.
Explore those points so that we have a clearer idea about where your head is vis-a-vis vertical AI.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question is, you come from vertical SaaS, so you have a portfolio of companies that are vertical SaaS. Is vertical AI being retrofitted into those vertical SaaS companies? And if so, how successfully is that happening in your portfolio? And are the ones who are starting as AI native companies at an advantage in vertical AI?
Yes and no. And I think I am seeing both. Time will tell which one's a winning strategy to some extent, but I'll tell you something. Distribution is a major advantage for people who already have it. Mm-hmm. And if they can solve the AI case while they have the vertical SaaS business in hand, because they have the customer's trust, they already went past all of the the buying issues in terms of procurement and being a preferred vendor and this, that, and the other. They've already sort of crossed that chasm. They've already sort of gone through the security ops, this, that, and the other, right? All of those pieces already passed. Now it's a question of leveraging AI. If the teams are smart enough, they can do it. Some places you can integrate with bots. Some places you can take a workflow and redefine it. Some places you can add computer vision. It's case by case, but remember, we're investing in vertical SaaS in companies that are building industry OSs. So they've already taken, I'll give you an example. We have a company called Techion. Techion took AI retail, automotive retail, and took 14 different packages a dealership would run on and integrated that into a single package, right? Mm-hmm. They already own the entire value chain within a dealership, and the connections to manufacturers, dealers, customers, all in a single system. Now, for them to add AI is not as difficult if the teams already know what they're doing, and they know where AI can help in the finance process, in the customer service process, in the recognition that the car is already in the service bay, things like that. I think there's a set of companies that can leverage AI, and there are a set of companies that may not be able to leverage it as quickly, and there will be new startups, new incumbents who disrupt them. There are cases that didn't used to exist before. For example, vibe coding, right? Came out of the blue.
Yeah.
And it didn't used to exist before. All of a sudden, you recognize that AI can actually write code and do a really good job.
Vibe coding, I think, is a different issue. We can talk about vibe coding in a moment, but let me first kind of comment on what you said. In vertical SaaS that is already very well deployed, like the example that you are working with Techion, the automotive dealership operating system, let's call it, vertical AI, vertical SaaS. Going from vertical SaaS to vertical AI in this case, there is an agentic path to do that, right? There's a lot of workflow, and in this situation, agentic AI is a viable path architecturally to get all this stuff into automation and agentic functionality, and that is actually best done by people who have domain knowledge and who are already deeply entrenched into the workflow of that industry.
That's correct.
Yeah, please go ahead.
See, they have access to the proprietary data,
yeah.
Right? They understand the language, they have the proprietary data. And remember, a lot of these industries that were digitized back when to vertical SaaS were sleepy industries.
Yes.
They had some cloud, mostly on-prem. We were lifting them out of on-prem into the cloud. Once you bring them into the cloud, once you bring them into the modern infrastructure, it's a lot easier then to add agentic pieces to the workflow and to the processes. You're already a domain expert. Yes. You already have the distribution. You already have the customer trust. Now you got to take it to the next step.
I think the ones that are having difficulty in retrofitting are the ones that have architectural limitations of what needs to be done.
100%. You're absolutely right.
Now, what about human in the loop? In this use case that you're talking about, what are you learning in terms of adoption and AI adoption, human in the loop? These are pushbacks that the industry is facing from enterprises and businesses.
I think for the foreseeable future, human in the loop is an important piece in a number of things that we're seeing. I think agentic right now is not a replacement, not an entire replacement. Hallucinations are still part of it. You need training. You need human in the loop for cases that agents cannot handle. But things are moving faster, if you will, right? So if you go agentic, things will move faster. They will happen faster. I'll give you an example. We have a company called AI SDR. The SDR function is handled by AI. It can book meetings for you. AI can completely personalize the outreach and book meetings for you. In most of the cases. In cases where it cannot, human is in the loop. And there are examples of companies that are successful in adding human in the loop. But over time, as data enriches, eventually, I think a lot of that human in the loop will be reduced.
Yeah. Now, what are you learning about pricing, business model, pricing model? We're talking about outcome-based pricing. We're talking about, subscription still is the preferred business model of the industry. I've talked to a number of companies that are still doing subscription, AI companies that are still doing subscription because that's what the buyers know how to buy. That's what the buyers are comfortable buying. And they're staying with subscription as their business model. What are you learning in your portfolio?
Well, the way I think about this is the reason software became everything to the world is because software has amazing margins. The marginal cost structure for software deployment is almost nothing, right? And subscription just made it a lot more palatable because you had a sense of recurring revenue. Mm-hmm. And you could break down the pricing, and you can come in for a lot lower, but still maintain your margins, and find scale if you hit the right problem on its head. The same principles, I think, will apply to any pricing structure that comes forward, whether it's outcome-based or subscription. Over time, I think if outcome-based produces the same level of margins at the level of scale that we're expecting, I think startups will be comfortable with it. I think customers will be comfortable with it because startups will be more willing to offer it. But today, I think subscription is still the preferred path because people are used to it. They just want their problem solved. Subscription has never been a problem as such. New startups can come up and say, look, we're going to offer you outcome-based. While you're using subscription-based today, you're locked into a year, 2-year, 3-year contract. We can give you an outcome-based pricing. Fine, as long as you give me results that I'm looking for. Yeah, outcome-based may be fine, but over time, it'll converge towards the same level of pricing because all of us have to see the same level of margins.
Well, I think there is another reason why subscription became the standard of our industry is because investors, the financial community, loved the predictability of it. You know, you can forecast subscription-based pricing models a lot better than outcome-based pricing or, you know, licensed software or anything, because there is that repeatability, there is the recurring factor to it. And that's what Wall Street loved when cloud companies started first getting public. They just fell in love with the business model because it's predictable. It is something that people can build financial models around. And that still holds.
That's a fair point. It does add predictability, and that does make a lot of sense for not just Wall Street, right? I mean, all the CFOs like it.
For everybody, for you guys, for the VCs, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. You wanted to talk about vibe coding. So let me just kick this off and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening are watching what's happening in the vibe coding world, and the big visible story is Lovable. Lovable went from 0 to $100 million in recurring, quote unquote, recurring revenue in 6 months or 9 months. That's very, very unusual level and speed of growth that the industry has seen very rarely before. And now we're seeing some of these cases, and most of them are actually coming from the vibe coding use case. But then Lovable went and raised $200 million at a exorbitant valuation and so forth. I said when that happened is that this is a mistake. And it is turning out to be a mistake because their quote unquote recurring revenue is not recurring so well right now. And they are going to have a very hard time growing at that pace with that valuation and with burn rate going up and so on. So tell me, what are your musings? I just gave you some of my musings. What are your musings about vibe coding?
I think it's a wonderful use case, right? I mean, I think, like I said, it came out of nowhere, and it is probably the prime use case in the industry right now. And there, it's not just vibe coding; it's a toolkit around it as well. Yeah. You can code, but how do you review the code? So we do have a company called CodeRabbit that does code reviews, and it's growing at a breakneck speed. Mm-hmm. Today, it makes sense because these tools are just coming together. The world is getting used to them. They're adopting them because obviously there's value, right? They're seeing value.
There's no question there's value, especially in our world. Non-technical founders were always at a disadvantage. Now they can prototype and get to MVP that quickly just because of vibe coding. but the product still needs to be built. Vibe coding products necessarily do not scale and do not really, sustain.
I think there's going to be a world that they have use in, and then there's a world that they don't necessarily scale to that level.
Yeah.
I think there'll be other tools for those pieces. They will come together, but for now, I think it is an amazing use case.
Oh, it's an amazing use case. It's an amazing use case, amazingly useful tool.
Right. So, I think scale issues aside, I do think that they've carved themselves a space, and then there are tools that are coming together around them. They're also carving themselves a space, and the distribution advantage these guys have, and how fast they're growing, how fast they're sort of distributing, it is phenomenal to see, right? It is a global use case. It is one of the first global use cases.
My favorite case study of a vibe coding company actually is Base 44. In 6 months,
I love
in 6 months, with no financing, that company got acquired by Wix for $80 million. And Wix is a perfect acquisition for them. Wix is in the same space. They have the customers, and they can scale that thing very rapidly. So it's an excellent path for them to scale. But it's a great entrepreneurship use case, and this is an ultralight startup clearly. So vibe coding has brought us a whole genre of companies that are doing amazing things in ultralight product-led growth mode, scaling in a pace that we have not seen before. So absolutely. So here's my more complex question. In many corridors of Silicon Valley and in many dinner parties that I've hosted or been at, there are conversations going on right now about AGI. And when does AGI hit the market? The timeline that people in the know are working with, is between 3 and 10 years. What happens to everything that we are working with if AGI hits? There is analysis like, this is the end of capitalism. All work ends once AGI does everything better than people. Pretty much all work comes to an end. What happens to venture capital? What happens to vertical SaaS? What happens to anything, basically? So what is the thesis that you are working with?
I think it requires a definition again. There are a lot of confusing terms. There's AGI, there's superintelligence, right? There's all kinds of stuff happening. To some extent, my assumption it's already here in some form. Somebody already has it working. Is it as widespread as what it should be? No, not yet. I think that could come. But remember, our point of view is that applied intelligence is probably as important, if not more important. The data modes, the workflows, the governance models still have humans behind it who've defined it, who continue to innovate on. And they will still require humans to understand things and play them out. Do I think AGI will take over everything? No, I don't think it can. I don't think that's I think there's I think some regulatory concerns as well. I mean, I've been part of those conversations where we've talked about what'll happen to all the jobs. Well, people have to go on basic income. We have talked about it, but I have not yet seen that happening. I do see jobs getting obviated. There are some junior level programmer jobs. There are junior level underwriter jobs. Those I've seen gone away. They're transitioning to something else. And as technology and innovation comes every so often, big changes come every so often, workforce gets retrained, and you get this additional step of improvement in the economy, in the overall scheme of things that AGI will probably bring. But I don't believe that all these businesses start to sort of vanish and technology runs technology only, if that's what you're saying, right? I remember a while ago when robo-advisors came out. And robo-advisors were the ones who were doing wealth management, right? Or things like that. And you could literally take any portfolio and have a robo-advisor sort of, review your data set and come back with what your portfolio needs to look like, and they could manage it. If you look at the investment advisory business, there's still as many humans, and it's grown crazy. And RIAs are actually leveraging those robo-advisors, not being obviated by it just yet. The market, the pie is expanded. But I haven't seen technology take over because human relationships still matter. Tell me about this, right? Think about how you buy or sell a house. There are people who use the technology tools to buy and sell homes, but there's still as many real estate agents out there as there were before. They're all leveraging technology. So to some extent, the same thing will happen with AGI. The tools will get better. I think humans will leverage them. And those who are smart or smarter will do better with those tools.
So let me give you what I'm thinking. And it's a little bit slightly different from what you're thinking. Where I agree with you completely is that it's not here yet. I actually do not think you're saying that AGI is here yet. AGI is not here yet.
I'm just assuming that it's here.
It's not here.
I don't know if it is or it isn't.
I don't think it's here yet. But the point at the moment, the state of the union is human in the loop. And probably for a little bit longer, it is going to be human in the loop. But every workflow that is being created, AI workflow in every vertical, every domain that has a human in the loop, has the potential of that human being removed from the loop as more domain knowledge, as more fluidity develops there. And I actually believe that is going to happen at scale. The Economist has a very good analysis this last issue, I think, that junior jobs are not being hired. It's not so much they're getting fired, but they're not being hired. So entry-level hiring is stalling. In the companies that are adopting AI, entry-level hiring is stalling big time. And that means that, if people cannot enter industries and cannot get trained, where are the senior people going to come from is a big question mark, because somehow somebody has to train them so that they can become senior employees, right? So that raises a question mark there, but it is, it's just a matter of time that the firing will start. Right now it's non-hiring, but the firing will start. So I think, when we say there will be no jobs, it's not like there won't be any jobs, but the tremendous dramatic reduction in labor as part of the economy is going to be incredibly disruptive and incredibly unsustainable without universal basic income. So I do believe universal basic income has to come. Otherwise, there's going to be social unrest. It will have to come. And on the point of the data moat, there is, if you understand the structure of data, there's a lot of synthetic data being created right now to train AI models. So that moat is a question mark, and will continue to be, or will increase as a question mark as we go along. Then comes the question of, can AI manage AI? Can technology manage technology? We're not there yet. That part we're not there yet. Agentic technology is there. Agentic has not been woven into enterprise quite as much yet, but you just gave us an example of an industry, of a domain, this automotive dealership, where it is agentic AI is being adopted, and it's being adopted successfully because the domain is understood by the people who are bringing agentic technology in. And yes, there's human in the loop, but those humans will start to get out of the loop as this, as enterprises become comfortable with adopting AI. So, is it a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? We don't know yet. That's the question mark. I think the timeline is the question mark. The trajectory is not a question mark. I think we are going to go to robotics. I mean, think about it. China is building factory after factory right now, has not a single human being, and it's all dark. It doesn't use a lot of energy in keeping the place, warm or heated for the humans. It does for the machines. The machines still need to be maintained at a certain level, but it's hugely conserves energy, and it operates in the dark, but it works like a clockwork, and that is the future of manufacturing, right? So that is enormous number of jobs. Self-driving cars, self-driving trucks, enormous numbers of jobs. So all of this is coming. It is going to come. At the moment, I kind of believe that small language models are great, because small language models don't have to hallucinate as much. And for point problems, domain-specific problems, they are perfect to solve the problems, extract enormous amount of value, and that's great. But AGI doesn't need small language models. AGI basically can operate with super intelligence, and that will make, I think, a lot of the solutions that we're coming up with now at some point will become obsolete, because there's going to be more powerful technology entering the system. And at that point, there is another layer of disruption, and we don't know whether that is 3 years hence, 10 years hence, 20 years hence. We don't really know that. That would be my synthesis of. So end of capitalism is going to come. When it is going to come, we don't know yet. That's kind of my synthesis.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with majority of your thesis. I think you're right. I do think it's headed in that direction. The question is timing.
Timing.
And in the meantime, right, the world still needs to operate. Things need to become more efficient, and there's productivity gains still need to happen. So we are investing in the companies that are solving problems that we're seeing today for the foreseeable future. Where the companies go from there, how they evolve, time will tell. But the domain expertise we look for right now to build out industry operating systems, that problem still sustains.
At the moment, domain expertise is still very valuable, and it is a defensible mode, I think. Yes.
So we are still focused on that. We're still seeing value in it. We're still seeing lots and lots of demand for that kind of stuff. And we continue to plug away. I mean, look, if AGI takes over the world, maybe my agent will be talking to your agent, your MCP server will be talking to my MCP server, and we won't have, this podcast to do. I don't know, right? Maybe there'll be agents building their own podcasts.
There is.
Right? But who will be there serving, right? They'll probably be serving other agents. We don't necessarily know. And I imagine a world that agents are there to support what we want to do and make us more productive and make us more useful and happier. That's a world I'd like to see. But
let us hope for that world, because what worries me is about what has happened in social media, right? The AI, the algorithms have taken over and creating real damage.
They are. I agree with you.
Right. So, and that, if that continues, that trend continues and becomes more pervasive. I just read this on Facebook this morning, that apparently there are these podcasts or streaming programs in Brazil that are calling people for prayers early in the morning, and I'm like, that's good. This is much better than the hate being spread and by social media and the algorithms creating basically spreading hate and activating people into bad action,
Yeah.
I would rather people pray in the morning, early in the morning. They pray, they calm down, they feel better about the world, they feel, not aggressive. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
On that note, Sandeep, pleasure talking to you. We'll be in touch and we'll bring you back, as there's so much going on. There's so much going on continuously.
Thank you,
for coming.
Suparna, for staying on top of it and keeping us all aware of what's going on in the world.
See you soon. Bye.